All right, everybody, good evening, chocolate people. Welcome to the Chocolate Life. This is your host, Mr. Chocolate. Once again, we have our resident co host, Coach K, with us. And today's subject, no more disrespect. There are a lot of disrespectful folks in this country. Some dastardly disrespectful demonic individuals. There's a lot of D's and alliteration in that statement. How you doing, Coach K?
I'm doing all right. You sound like you ready to go. You chopping at the bits, using a word I need to look up to know what that means.
Which word was that?
Dastardly. Yeah, I got to look up. That's that five dollar word I need to look up so I know what that means so I can use it. But hi, audience. We're very happy that you guys are tuning in again. Um, Once again, so we can actually engage the conversation of how we actually empower ourselves, inspire ourselves, but most of all, how do we learn to tell our own stories? And as Mr. Chocolate has so beautifully put it is time for us to actually teach our own brains that we're not taking disrespect no more. I mean, we're done. We're done because just in the last 2 years, we've seen so much disrespect. As a matter of fact, it became an anthem when George Floyd was killed. Now, most everybody around the world remember when this man was killed and how it was displayed as if I don't care what he did because I've heard people talking about, but he was a drug addict. Okay, there are a lot of people who were had not so good behavior. However, when they die, that's not the first thing they seem to talk about. That's just disrespecting his humanity. I would like to know anybody who say that and they have family members because none of our families have everything together. Are we going to say that would be okay if that was our relative, if that was our dad, if that was our husband, that was our brother, that was our teacher, that was our pastor? Would we say that when uh, a police is displaying to the world the power structure, because that's what that was. That was a power structure. But it's time for us to learn how to just shut it down. And we're going to just give you some examples. So when you start forming your own narrative about um, what it looked like to be disrespect and why it's important that we stop allowing people to disrespect us, then you will see what we mean when we go through. And we're just going to give you a few examples. And then what I'll do after Mr. Chocolate come back and give uh, uh, a list, okay, a list of examples of total disrespect that has happened to different people from one end of the country to the next. And then I will talk about other disrespecting people. And after that, we're going to talk about how internationally we need to be better informed because everything we need to learn about us may not be encapsulated in the United States at this time to see as a model. And also, we can use what we see on the continent or in the Caribbean or wherever people call it diaspora. We can use examples to talk about the community we can be as the global community. Because right now, we are holding the justice claim down. And when I say we, I mean the people who came through the torture, the terrorism that we call the regime, the United States. We continue to do this and lead the charge on justice, equity, equality, and just fighting for basic human rights. We're doing that, and we continue to do that. And other people use our example, but at the same time, they want to move us out of the example. One group of people, and I have to say this to them: honors to the ancestors and to the survivor, the two survivors that are still here with us from the Rosewood massacre, and their loved one who died last year, who didn't. They used to call him Uncle. I forgot his name, Uncle Abe, something like that, but who died last year. And these two ladies are still here. One is 109, one is 110. But they remembered the massacre that happened in Rosewood, 1921.
Uncle Red.
Uncle Red, thank you. Uncle Red, who died, and then the other two relatives who still are here. And the Oklahoma Supreme Court just rejected their claim for reparation. And all of these faces on that Supreme Court are these pale skinned Negroes. So, and Tulsa is still living out the same regime because the man who is the mayor, his grandfather was the mayor at the time Rosewood happened. So the behavior still continues. And just because we got, as people say, we've come a long ways, actually we have not. We're at a standstill because we don't have political capital. We don't have political representation. So therefore, people think they can say and do whatever they want to us. And it's time for us to say no more. It just is. It's time for us to say that. So now the attorney for those survivors are going to take it to the federal Supreme Court. And we're going to see what Clarence Thomas and friends do for them, since they are trying really hard to find a way to get Donald Trump exempt from all his criminal behavior that he has done his whole life. But criminals support criminals. The only way we can get justice is to do it ourselves. We have no friends. We really don't. We have no allies. If they're not allying with truth and justice, they're not with us. I do not care if their skin look like us, or even if they're some of our family members. In the future, audience, be aware that some of the people that we love, we're going to say we love you, but we're going to have to disagree with you. We're going to have to move in a different direction. I am for justice. I am talking about what we must do as a collective. I know I can't do this by myself. Neither can Mr. Chocolate, neither can you. That is the reason we have these meetings every week. So we can give you insight on how to become not only inspired, but empowered, but also educated. I'm trying to do what I feel like is my part to help you with all three so you can help people. That's what we have to do. And it is going to be a journey where we actually move the needle together. We thank you guys who continue to tune in every week. And for you who have questions, please put them in our comment section or send it to the email address. Those are the two things we ask you to do. Invite other people who you would like to ally with in your community or your neighborhood, or somebody you think are is thinking outside of the box and want to join you as you venture into this quest to discover not only who you are inside, but who you are in this global community we call Earth. And with that, I'm gonna give it back to Mr. Chocolate so he can give you a few examples on some of the people who have disrespected us, and some of them just may be individuals, and then again, some of them may be groups. I'm gonna let him just share with you, Mr. Chocolate. Hello. I gave the mic back to you. I don't know how much of a delay we have. Well, it sounds like he's having some technical.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
The first one I want to talk about is uh, Trump using the black church to lie, cuss, and dish. Yes. Okay. All right. Um, the first video, former president number 45, literally former president number 45 uses the black church to disrespect, cuss at, and lie on black people. And he's done this a lot in these last few months. Um, yeah. He has, I'm going to say, since he first announced he was running, since 2015, he's been doing it. And a lot of people are buying and believe what he's selling. Then there was a woman in St. Louis who literally blocked a black man from getting into his new apartment that he had just paid for. He was just moving. I want to say he was moving from Kansas City. And because she assumed he looked like that he couldn't afford a place. It was a downtown St. Louis apartment, very uh in the high, those high dollar, high rise apartments. And she just followed him around and wouldn't let him go in, things of that nature. Basically making it seem like he didn't belong there. That's what she was on. That's the kind of time she was on. And then there is videos a couple years old. Scottsdale, Arizona man tells a black man that he's in a no nigger zone. No in. And that was him once again. Then there was the white guy in California. This video is probably a couple years old. White guy in a parking lot. I guess he tried to hit the black woman first. Then later on, he said something. Shortly after that, the initial incident, he said something. He basically was calling her nigger, and she didn't belong here and all that. And he swings at her, and so she swings back and slaps him and kicks him. She was standing on her business. And then you have the skin folks that's not kin folk, like Stacey Abrams telling us to vote because we're basically telling black men to vote because black men were the reason that she lost to that other guy for governor. And in all actually, and if I remember correctly, the numbers were that 83% of black male voters in the state of Georgia voted for Stacey Abrams. But she couldn't get more, but she got what, 27% of the white female vote and 23% of the white male vote. So yeah, she lost. Now, has she got another 2% of the white male vote, which would have brought it up to 25%? She probably would have won. Probably. But that's neither here nor there. She's blaming the black man for her losing an election. All right. Then, this infamous favorite, Hillary Clinton. We gotta bring these super predators to hit. We gotta take down these super predators and bring them to healed. I was 14, maybe 15 when she made that statement. She basically was now she she was claiming that she meant black gang members were super predators. But that's not what was said. She was basically talking about young black males being super predators, called us super predators. And that was very, very disrespectful. I mean, no matter how you cut it a slice, it's disrespectful because you lump a lot of young black males who have never been to jail or juvenile hall, never even had a criminal record. You lump a lot of them into that group. And that was very, very disrespectful. And then you have the infamous Canned Ice Owens in her documentary on George Floyd. Now, that was so disrespectful. Not only did the man lose his life, you basically demean his humanity after his life was taken out live on camera. And the name of her documentary was called The Greatest Lie. Hold up. The Greatest Lie Ever Sold. George Floyd and the Rise of BLM. Really? Really, Candace? You so damn disrespectful, Candace. So disrespectful. Then there is the current president, weekend at Bernie's, Sleepy, what do they call him, Sleepy Joe? This man said right before the election, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. Sir, a lot of us who are of age and who are old enough to know, this man insulted a lot of black people's intelligence by making that remark. As if us voting for him hinges on our blackness or that influences our blackness. If you don't vote for me, you ain't black. Guess what? I'm very black and I didn't vote for him. I know a lot of people that are black that didn't vote for him. It's very disrespectful, very disingenuous. Coach K, on that particular statement, can we give me some input on those remarks? Like, what are your thoughts on that statement?
Well, first of all, Joe Biden, how I mean it's disrespectful on so many levels. First of all, because Joe Biden would never tell an Asian person that. He will never tell LGBTQIA, all of those initials. He would never tell those people that. Secondly, Joe Biden has allowed all of these illegal immigrants to enter into country where he actually had allowed the what's those people, the Rangers down in Texas, to just beat the Black Haitians. So Joe Biden is just like any other racist. This man, remember, this man, Strong Thurman and all of these other racists were his mentors. You can't be mentored by a racist and say you're not a part of that ilk because those are your mentors. So are you saying I love them but I hate their policy? Absolutely not. Joe Biden is, I keep saying, Joe Biden is just as racist as Donald Trump. He just used it in a different way. And to try to school Black people to say you're not Black if you don't vote for him, well, guess what? We don't have to vote for either one of them. We can vote for the third party or the fourth party. How about that? That is part of the thing that the mass white media try to lead people that there are only two choices out there. There is not only two choices. Everybody can write Jill Stein's name in your ballot if need be. It's real easy to do. You don't have to vote for either candidate. That's the way you've been brainwashed to believe. Even if she don't make the ballot in a state, if people want to, they can still find a way to write this woman's name into their ballot. We can disrupt this whole system. And the reason I say Jill Stein, I'm not promoting any candidate. I'm promoting the fact that this lady said Black people are due reparations, and therefore they are the ones need to lead the charge and the conversation. She said that in her platform. So therefore, we're asking them to bring this to the floor. Joe Biden is not trying to do it. Joe Biden said he'd be damned if he covers something that happened 300 years ago. Well, guess what? Being evil to Black people didn't just happen 300 years ago. It's still happening. In 2020, after George Floyd died, all of the research that came out from all different on this country showed that this country has been anti-Black in all their policies. So we need young people to get on that agenda. Not listen to old, wrinkled up, senile white people like Joe Biden trying to disrespect us, because it works if you can actually be disrespected. Or we can teach people, if you in that arena and want to be a politician, learn how to clap back. It's real easy to do. But all of these people that he had that meeting with, I mean, he was on Charlemagne's show, The Breakfast Club. Charlemagne just wanted his check because that was up to him as the host of that show to have some pushback on Joe Biden. And if you're not going to push back at these people, then, well, he's doing his job according to what they pay him to do. That's why we have to develop our own level avenues of resources so we can learn how to have our voices and we don't have to worry about people cutting our voices off. That's why we have a podcast instead of a YouTube. Because if nothing else, I want to learn how to have a voice outside of what we call work. So when I don't have to work no more, the idea is, how do I teach younger people how to have their own voices and learn how to make their own meal ticket in life, their own sources of revenue, and we could actually build a larger coalition. We can't build a coalition unless we have financial backing. Those are just facts. That is the way they crush us, because we don't have the financial support that people had from 1900 to 1950, before the United States and all of its ilk destroyed everything we were trying to build, including Rosewood, including uh, Greenwood, including all the other places. What was that over in Arkansas? We
Elaine.
with Elaine, and we're gonna do a presentation about that one day. Since uh, somehow the narrative have been we have been quote unquote just in certain places. No, we have developed whole towns. Black people not that interested at this point in quote unquote being a part of this society that they deem is America's great. No, these are colonizers and they still colonizers and they have occupied this land for more than since 1776 when it became a supposedly country. They have been occupying our space. It's time for the colonizers to go. I don't care where they go. It's just time for them to go. And we have to start using that kind of language. Same way some of these people tell us, if you don't like America, then leave. Well, you first, since our ancestors, many of us, and I have to keep saying this because some people don't think they are indigenous to this land. Some of us, our ancestors were here before the colonizers. So therefore, it's up to us to develop different types of coalitions so we can gain power, political power, so we can change some of the trajectory where this place have gone all of this time and where all the money is saturated in the concentrated in corporations because that's who run the country. That's who always run the country. The Virginia, which is now a state, Massachusetts, which is now a state, both of those were corporations or companies. And they sent Europeans over here and they started fighting to set up businesses. First business was tobacco. It was a crop, and they began from there and started manipulating people and convincing them that they were their friends. White supremacy can never be our friends. Now, Europeans who are pale skinned, that's a different story, but it is also for a different conversation way down the line. Right now, we got to recognize who we are and work towards that. Now, I'm going to let you finish what I hope that actually answered what you were trying to get me to do some input on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a couple more left.
Okay.
And then there was the white lady in North Hills, Raleigh, North Carolina, that decided to get frustrated and call all the black people in the restaurant niggas. And then she doubled down on it the next day when she was interviewed and said, and I quote, "If it happened again, I will say it again. I am not going to take back what I said." End quote.
And though statement like that is evidence that we don't have to be apologetic, but unapologetic black in our approach to humanity. We don't need to apologize because we want justice and respect. We're not disrespecting people, so therefore, we're not allowing people to continue to disrespect us. I mean, we can close some businesses. That is how we actually made things happen. All we have to do is start closing businesses. And how do we close businesses? Stop participating, stop going. Same thing the black guys
Mm-hmm.
try to do with the females up in Chicago, and they still went to the Asians to get their nails done. It's like, really? And the brothers trying to teach you to just fall in line with people who are protecting you, and then you got to have the weave and the fingernails done, that you go back into the same place that disrespected you. And that was only a few years ago. That's not a part of it. My uh, list, I don't know if it was a part of your list. I may have stolen your thunder.
Mm-mm. No,
That's,
I don't
but
have. I didn't have that one.
but it has happened so often that we can just continue to give a barrage of situations to show how we continue to be disrespected. And it's like, no, it is time for this to stop. So we have to teach young people. You have to learn how to empower yourself. You have to learn how to, if you're under 18, let the adults have it, okay? But if you 18 and over, learn how to know how to, go to the attorneys. Have your facts straight. Because if you got your facts straight, that's all you need. You don't have to argue with you don't have to argue with the police. You don't have to argue with nasty people who run restaurants. You don't have to argue with your store manager. You don't even have to argue with your managers at these so-called be employments now. You see something done, if somebody do something wrong against you, have it written up the very first time. Don't continue to push it off. Have it in writing. So when it happens the fourth and fifth time, you can just go to HR and say, you see the behavior pattern. That's it. Can we make them do right? Absolutely not, because everybody is an entity to themselves. And they have had a leeway to be very nasty. That energy, and that's hateful energy. It stems from a spirit. Like I said, once I start the podcast, once we move this farther along and I can do the spirituality podcast, is to teach us to recognize different spirit, like hatred. This is just blatant hatred. And it manifests in various ways. But this is hatred. Hatred and jealousy. And we don't have to be jealous of anybody. But at this point, it's time for us to say enough is enough. The courts, the Supreme Court, notice the name Supreme. So you can tell from the very name of the court system, it was set up by people with ill intent, because they allowed themselves to be called an entity, meaning we are the know all in all. We are the last stop. And now we see they are just as corrupt as everybody else. Everything about the United States is going to be exposed. There is no hiding. There is none of these institutions that can tell us how to be moral, just, live like we, as you say, live like upright citizens, because none of these institutions have been any of that. And it was set up by them. And we have actually done better than them who set the rules in place. Now they're trying to move the bar. And we're not allowing that either. It's nice to see some of these Europeans who want to see justice push back on the injustice that's happening, because it's going to take them. The pale skinned people going to have to do better. They have not done better in the last 100 years. Now it's time to do different. This is not just our fight, but we're going to stand on our square. Now we're going to talk about justice for ourselves right now. We are going to lead the charge on reparation, because we see people are trying real hard not to even have the conversation. And we've moved the needle in the last 10 years. 10 years ago, people were saying it wasn't possible. Barack Obama said that. Barack Obama, who was supposed to be the first Black president. No, he was the first white Kenyan president. That is his nationality. So therefore, we have to give it to them the way it is, not the way they lie to us when it's convenient. Barack Obama, look at his track record. He has never respected Black people, specifically Black males. You've seen that in his speeches. We talked about that last week. So no, just because they look like us, they don't represent us. So I'm gonna give it back to you, Mr. Chocolate.
I think I only have one more left.
Okay.
Hold up. This has one more left. Oh yes. That racist student making that racist remark at the school that prompted the Black Panthers to show up in Virginia. Now,
Mhm.
That was
Remind the
the
audience that she was a female also.
oh yes, and she was a female student. Yes.
And
And
how old
nothing
was she?
uh 14 or 15?
Okay, I just want the audience to know how young she was. So to say that, as Tim Scott has told us, America's not a racist country. He wants some white money, because if you got a 14-year-old talking about she want to kill niggers, she had to learn that from her house. She didn't learn that from TV. She learned that from her house. Go ahead.
Yep. Yeah, and that like that kind of that kind of that stuff is that disrespect is taught and breeded in the home,
Hmm.
and it's reinforced with other students at school because I can guarantee you she probably has a lot of friends that
Well, it's
think the same way that she does.
well, not only her friends. Let's not just put it to the quote unquote the students. This is reinforced with the teachers and the superintendents.
Mm-hmm.
It is not just the students. The students are acting out. It is the same way the people in the Capitol ran up into the Capitol and tried to destroy it. Yet and still, if that had been black people, all of them would have been dead now. They would have been dead about 2 hours after they started shooting and made sure each one of them got killed. It wouldn't have. They wouldn't have been having uh, uh, court proceedings, still trying to arrest them. That wouldn't have happened 2 years later. They would have been already been dead. But this is what white supremacy looked like when it's unhinged and unleashed. Because now it's unleashed. If anybody who still read the Bible and remember the part about uh, the Satan will be unleashed on the world for 1,000 years or something like that before Jesus comes back. Well, I don't know about that second part, but right now we see unleashed. We see unleashed. They unleashed on all angles. We see militias, and militias can still are still being formed every day. So if you said that's the last one, let me just share with you guys a few of these different times in history, and I'm going to give you a few dates, different times in history. First, I'm going to start with Joe Biden. Joe Biden, the president of the United States, as Mr. Chocolate just stated, he had the audacity to tell black people that if you don't vote for me, then you're not black. And okay, black people voted for him. Black people gave him two Congress people down in Georgia, something that has not happened. And for us to believe, quote unquote, there are some black, quote unquote, blue states, there are no blue states in the United States. I want you guys to know that. There are a few enclaves where black people live, so therefore black people try to vote their interest. But right now, we don't have anybody trying to uphold any interest, because just like uh, Hillary Clinton was found in her emails to say, don't make any promises to black people, the Democratic Party is still doing that. Republicans just let it make known, if you're not going to be a step and fetch it for us, we have nothing for you. If you're not going to be a Byron Donald, or you're not going to be a Tim Scott, we have no place for you. Point blank in the story. That's what's going on. But Joe Biden not only did that, he lied to the black Democratic Party and all the voters, saying, you had my back, I'm going to have your back. He's supposed to be putting a George Floyd crime bill together and bringing it, no, crime bill into law. George Floyd Act or something, George Floyd Act. That didn't happen. Police qualified immunity was supposed to have been put into effect. That didn't happen. As a matter of fact, Joe Biden gave this wink and a nod and gave more money, allocated more money to the racist police unions around the country. And to put a nail in the coffin, 6 months after Joe Biden became president, he signed an Asian crime bill after lying to Black people, and then signing this bill because the white media can um, they can propagandize anything and make it look like whatever they want to. So we saw these so-called elite people who were beating up on Asians, and so happens all of them were Black people. But at this point, there are no more Black people beating up on Asian people. So that's that great mystery. But Black people are still getting killed in the street, and there is no anti-Black hate crime bill like there is an Asian hate crime bill. So Joe Biden's hate crime bill, which was in 2021, becomes one of those times of total disrespect that not only I and Mr. Chocolate need to remember, you guys need to remember. So when you get ready to develop your own platform, you have information that you can not only just talk about, you can show why these people are never our friend and they're liars. Next person for us to look at, as I told you, none of these states are blue states. Back in October 2022, there was a city council president named Nuri Martinez. She was caught on a mic with her cohorts, her other Latino representatives out there in California, making plans to make sure Black people don't have any political representation in Los Angeles County. Now, the lie is being told that California is a blue state. No. And if so, then why is in Los Angeles, which there's a large enclave of Black people uh, who live there and live in the surrounding places like Compton and Orange County, why is it that we have a person so bold to make a statement like that? You're talking about a Martinez, Nuri. I don't know where she's from. I can't call her Mexican. I can't call her anything. She looked like what people call Latino or whatever framing there, but she a Hispanic white if you look at her on the census. Because the census is a racist document and they keep moving the bar. At first it was black and white, which is in political base. You white, you get benefits because you stand with this category. You Black, you do not get benefits. So guess who you think all of these people are going to, when they sign these legal documentations, what they're going to put down? Regardless of what they tell us every day, if they work with us, they're lying. They will identify with the power structure, like Nuri Martinez did. But not only Nuri, who was Hispanic, and then she quit, Latino, whatever the terminology is. She quit so it wouldn't be any heat against her. But we got to always remember, this is what they do. They come over here, they get citizenship, and then the first thing they do is start shitting on us. Sometimes that happens even before they get citizenship. Way back in January of this year, in the city of Chicago, on the west side, an illegal immigrant who continues to get money through the federal government, funneled through all of these cities, who continue to get these people in, because the whole idea is, how do they funnel the money so they can get enough people over here so they can replace us? That's the goal. Don't think for one moment that that's not the goal. They're funneling money so they can get a political base so they can completely wipe us out of the political structure, or we continue to be in the dead last position. That's the goal. You had an illegal, I need you guys to hear this tonight. You had an illegal yell to a Black woman in a city council meeting saying, You lazy, no more, no, you lazy, no more money for you. Now, how much more disrespect can that be when you got an illegal standing up in a city where a black female has lived her entire life, is a citizen, and he is bold enough to tell her that she's lazy and no more money for her, and somehow he got over here with somebody giving him everything he got, and yet he's saying no more money for her. Make that make sense, audience. But this is where we are. We have illegals who think they can tell us that we're not getting anything, but they supposed to get some. Not only in Chicago, like I said, this is the behavior pattern. Even in uh, expensive Boston, okay, Boston, Massachusetts, the governor, I mean, it's the mayor of the city of Boston is allowing illegals to live in a community center shelter and housed over 1,600 of them. And the citizens are asking, why Roxbury? Try Wesleyan. And I guess Wesleyan is supposed to be the really nicer part uh, in Boston. And they were housing people. And this was back in February. So these are all new, these are all latest information that how not only the state, the city, the governors, the president, we even got illegals coming over here trying to disrespect us. This mayor housed more than 1,600 illegals in the shelter, and they will continue to have them as in the shelter until May 31st. So they just now reopened the pool area so people can use it for what it's supposed to be, a recreation center for the center, not for illegals to lay on, have a place to live. If they want a place to live, and it's time for us to say that, they need to stay at home, wherever their homes are. Since we can't house our own homeless, we can't house our own homeless vets who have been in wars, done things to help this country, come home, disability, lost their home, lost their families, living on the street. We can't house them. We can't even cover for them in hospitals. Yet and still, we have money give to illegals. As I said, make that make sense. But right after that article came out, we had a few days later, from Boston to Houston, Texas. In Houston, Texas, there was an attorney who thought that it was a good thing to harass a black female judge. That happened on the 27th of February of this year. Not only did he send her a threatening and harassing letter, he called her animal. And of course, well, he called her by her first name in the letter as if he knew her. So this person who used his letterhead, see how bold white supremacy is? He used his company letterhead to disrespect a judge in the city of Houston. And she turned over the information very kindly. Mind you that this judge is a military veteran. And she talks about how she wasn't disrespected that much when she was in the military, as she is now being a state judge. So see how these dynamics continue to play out? It's just not one place. It's not just the South. It's all over this so-called to be country. And yes, he got fired. So this is a way to remedy some of this injustice. Anytime it happened, that's why I said, if it happened at your job, if you still work for some corporation, report it every time to HR. Don't just report it to your manager. Write a letter to HR because the manager won't do it, or do whatever needs to be done. If it's against the manager, of course, by all means, go to HR. Your health and your survival is at stake. Okay? So, moving from Houston, Texas, let's move a little bit up to the place where Brett Favre decided that it was a good thing to take money from SNAP, and they still haven't found a way to put him in jail because he has the complexion for the protection. Stole money from SNAP. The man who helped him steal the money is in jail, but yet still Brett Favre's not in jail. We're talking about Tunica County, we're talking about the state of Mississippi, but specifically Tunica County right now. Because Tunica County, as poor as the whole state of Tunica is, I mean, the whole state of Mississippi is, Tunica, for some reason, thought it was a good idea to say that they would accept illegals to come to Tunica County to be housed in one of the old casinos. Remind you, this casino that they're trying to house these people in been closed for years. So therefore, this casino probably has black mold and all kinds of stuff. But the caveat to this is the federal government is giving money away to these places who will house these illegals. That's the part that we are not privy to until somebody make a investigative report. I'm happy that the people of Tunica, whichever, I don't know what they call their council people, but the vote was 3-2 that rejected it. So I would like to know who are the two people who thought it was a good idea. And you probably will find that these two people are getting kickbacks from the white establishment in Tunica, although Tunica is supposed to be a black town. This is why it's important that we have to learn politics as a global community. We have to learn to understand how politics uh, is developed. Politics are the policies that govern a society. That's all politics are. We don't understand politics. We don't understand how a society is run. And we need to know that. And for most of us past the age of, I would say 40, 45, I think it's maybe 40, that civics, government, social studies, those are a thing of the past. They have actually tried to enmesh all of those different subjects into one and have done a poor job of educating young people. So we have to do it for ourselves. But I must, the next one that I would like for you to, and all of these topics that I'm giving you guys, you can pull them up. There are actual news articles. These are just not, Mr. Chocolate talked about, he looked at some of these on YouTube. Well, I did the opposite. I look at certain things that podcasters are doing, but at the same time, I try to see if I can find where a real journalist puts something in writing. Because we have to have everything in writing. Because if the cloud erase stuff, if YouTube decide to disband certain people, uh, uh, YouTube channels, uh, podcasters just give you information and don't have the information to back it up, we must have information in writing, if nothing else, for our own records. Because they can scrub things. They've scrubbed a lot of these people history from the internet, and we can't find out who they are. Prime example: the Supreme Court Justice named what is his name? Brown Jackson or Jackson Brown?
Taji Brown Jackson.
Yeah, I know she got two names. Can't find her real history. I just think of things like that. But on June 14, a hate crime happened in Bellingham, Washington. And this hate crime happened against a young 11-year-old child, where an old 42-year-old man can be seen on the camera. He came across the street where these children was coming back from a field trip, and the child gave the information to his dad and to the police, and he stated, this man knocked him down and broke his tooth, and then he stated, so is this the way you talk to a white man? So our children are soft talkers. So we have to put this information out there, not just to report it, but to talk about the urgency of learning how to protect ourselves and protect our children. We will have a podcast in the future so we can talk about why the uh, Black Panthers were so important to the community. Now, I know some of you probably have understood Black Panthers from how the United States told you they were. But we need to know that the Black Panthers formed to protect the community because they were tired of the police killing our people in the streets. So they armed themselves and they protected the community. That is what they did, nonstop. So we got to get back to that because we get disrespected too much. Speaking of disrespect, and of course, yes, this man has been arrested. Kudos to his father, the young man's, the child's father. I keep saying young man because he wasn't a man. He was an 11-year-old child. Uh, Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey just made a proclamation to the Black community. I'm not sure who died and left him to be the spokesperson for Black people. When Cat Williams have told us how ratchet he is. Now, maybe the white capital is paying him, has convinced him that he has the ear of the community, but we're going to show Steve Harvey and all the rest who coordinate and get dollars from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. We're not with that. So by him making a statement to say we're not getting reparation, well, we may not get it today or tomorrow, but that doesn't mean we don't have to continue to fight. That just simply means we put Steve Harvey in the same category. We put Clarence Thomas, we put Kamala Harris, and we put Candace Owens. It's simple as that. So eventually, people will stop listening to Steve Harvey on his show, and they make his show get canceled. Remember, people don't mind by getting us to lose. Our jobs can get lost at any day. For people who have regular jobs, don't make six figures, they can lose their job in a heartbeat. But people who get these millions of dollars to do a snow job for Black people, they continue to make millions of dollars, like Steve Harvey. And I'm gonna state one more person in the United States, and then I'm gonna talk about why it's so important for us to understand what's going on the continent. Because some of you guys may want to go there. So it's important for us to be grounded and learn world history, Black history around the world. How about that? There is a person in Missouri, and this just happened a few days ago. Oh yeah, and then I'm gonna give you one more after that because it just happened. I just found this story today, so I need to share this with you. But there is a young person, 25-year-old Valentino Gomez in Missouri. And this 25-year-old is running for Secretary of State. And some of you guys may be 25-year-old. I would like to know, are you running for Secretary of State? And let me tell you her qualifications. So, and maybe your qualifications will far exceed her qualifications. But she called herself a self-described real estate investor, financier, strategist, and former NCAA Division I swimmer. Now, to be perfectly honest, this woman has no qualifications. I don't even know what her real job is because she didn't say anything about a job. You can be a strategist. All you have to do is look at stuff and put statistics together. You can be a financier. All you have to do is try to learn how to manage your money and go to a planner. You can be a quote unquote a self-described real estate investor. All you have to do is buy a piece of property. Those are her qualifications, but she's running for state secretary, secretary of state of Missouri. Now, I'm pretty sure you're supposed to have more qualification than just I'm showing up. I just came here, come from Columbia, and I can dog black people out with the most disrespectful statements possible. This female had the audacity to talk about Juneteenth. And then she talked about how uh, 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 reparations are not due to us. Now, she just got here. She's 25. So in 25 years, she's still a newcomer to this country. I don't really care when she came over here. She don't know enough to have a conversation with us. And I'm talking about you who parents are from this country and you're under 25. You don't know enough to have a conversation with you. But this is the level of disrespect that continues to be perpetuated in this thing we call a country against us. All of this anti Black vitriol that is spewed. You see, the U.S., what was that, American Airlines decided to let some of their employees go. Those employees who thought it was a good thing to ask 8 very dignified Black men to exit the plane. They didn't know each other, only to ask them, to allow them to get back on because supposedly they smelled something. Now, last time I checked, Black men like to smell real good. And when they go places, they make sure that their hygiene is in place, especially if they're sitting in first class. But they forgot some of those caveats. When you get Black men on airplanes, and they're in business class, okay, how does that even make sense? But these are the kind of things we have to contend with. And the only thing the employers say is that's not in with keeping of our policy. Yes, it is. Otherwise, these people wouldn't be so bold as to be doing this. But the story that came out today, which happened in Myrtle Beach, this is to the parents and to the young people who just graduated, because this was a young graduate. She was 18 years old, going to a party with her friends, and 2 female cops decided to pull her over. And they had their guns drawn on her as soon as she got out the car, made her lay down, all kinds of traumatic experience. And now she has sued them. And they were also heard saying that car was not the car that they were looking for. Supposedly they were looking for a stolen car. They never told this young person what they pulled her over for. It says the officer turned on their siren and blue lights and pulled their car in front and the rear, a Hemingway vehicle. Now, how many people would be terrified when police just hem you in? Both officers jumped out, drew their weapons, and ordered Hemingway to show her hands and get out of the car. So what do you think an 18-year-old going to do? But these are the kind of stories that we need to tell our young people. Now, her parents came down to the police station and filed a report. But now she's also filed a civil rights against the police chief and these 2 officers. Because, yes, they violated her and they didn't even have probable cause for pulling her over. They never told her what they were pulling her over for. Although they can be heard, the radio could be heard according to statement. It says Wallace could be heard on the body cam, acknowledging that Hemingway vehicle is not the one they received the notification about. So please, somebody in the audience tell me why they proceeded to harass and terrorize this young person. This is what we continue to deal with. And this is the behavior that continue to be perpetuated. We're not making anything up. We're not being hyperbolic. We're just telling you what's going on in the United States. So therefore, we can be prepared to know that we are in this by ourselves. And we have to do what our elders did from 1910 to 1950. And I have to use that as the benchmark because after 50, I really after 60, when they started killing our leaders, it appears that the quote unquote civil rights leaders got a comfortable place and started singing Kumbaya. We're not singing Kumbaya. We're done. We're done being disrespected. So when we look at people like Paul Kagame, who is the president of Rwanda, who is teaching uh, Ibrahim Traore of Burkina Faso, who is teaching the young people over there in Burkina Faso by motivating them, by encouraging them, by buying equipment so the farmers can learn how to farm and be encouraged and grow crops and teach their children. These are the people we need to look at, like Julius Malema, who ran for president of South Africa, yet and still they put uh, Ramaphosa back in office, but we're finding out now that Ramaphosa has teamed up with the DA, which is something these Dutch African. Now, young people in South Africa are realizing and making bold statements against Ramaphosa that you cannot have white people being a part of the government, which is true because the white people over in South Africa has never respected the the group of people in the whole area that they fought, but they didn't have enough guns. And that's one thing we have to recognize and realize. Up until the 1900s, Black people around the globe did not have the guns that we now have access to. So when you are thinking about why certain things have happened, where most Black people have gotten killed, and that's how most Black people have gotten killed in all of these enclaves that white people now occupy, such as the Dakotas and everything, because white people have killed the melanated people. In Vietnam, the white people came over there and they killed the dark Vietnamese. So therefore, you got a lot of light-skinned Vietnamese, and then they married other light-skinned people. Same way the people who call themselves native now. They married more white people or very light people, and now they have bleached out all of the very dark indigenous people, or they erased them off the roll. These are very simple things that have been done, but if we don't know some of the backstories, we just think this narrative that Europeans in America, and I'm going to have to start using that phrase, Europeans in America, because they're not Americans. Americans are Black. Americans have deeply melanated skin, and there are some of us still around. And we're going to raise our voices. We didn't all get killed. We didn't all get massacred. That's the lie that's being promoted and taught because that's what the white supremacists are trying to do over in Gaza. But if you notice, in Gaza and in Palestine, a lot of the melanin has been bleached out of their skin too. Okay? And half of those people over there wouldn't call themselves Black. They wouldn't call themselves colored people or any of those dark names that people attach to melanin. I'm going to embrace my melanin. I hope you continue to embrace your melanin because melanin is not just outside, it's inside. And we got a whole lot more characteristic of how we ooze out the melanin that give us the grace to be kind, to be creative, to be ingenious, to be dynamic, to be brilliant. That comes from the melanin. But we have to be intuitive enough to know that. And if our intuition is not working, that means part of our mentality is not connecting with our spirit. That's it. Because if we was intuitive, we would actually engage that more. We can develop it. Old people say, my little mind or my hunch or something told me. Well, That's intuition, but you can't nurture it if you keep ignoring it. In order for it to become more keen, you have to allow it to teach you. It's very quiet in its approach. So, therefore, if you miss it, you miss it. But if you nurture it by listening to it when it's telling you to follow the guidance, you can actually become a more intuitive person. Now, I hope we have learned something this evening from some of those examples that we have given to know that not only are we no longer taking disrespect, we have entire nations like Burkina Faso, like Rwanda, like the young people in South Africa who was not content with this election and finding out how much Ramaphosa is not really trying to help the community, the collective. That is part of the way we know that when we're on the same wavelength. These young people are talking the same way that I'm talking to you, that we have to call people out who are in our community and those who wish to make money off the community. We have to do that so we can become bold in our approach. We don't have to be belligerent, but we do have to be bold and we have to stand on our principles because it's our principles that's going to allow us to do whatever it is to move us into the space of our greatness. And with that, I'm going to land my plane.
Yeah. All right, chocolate people. Hopefully, you got some good information. Definitely, I know for a fact you got some good nuggets out of this because it's a lot of disrespect going on, and we ain't trying to take it no more. Now, some of that stuff hit close to home. Oh my goodness. Yeah, but yeah, we got to put our foot down and stand on our square, and we got to take things the legal route immediately when stuff happens. Can't wait. You got to
Mm-hmm.
go right then and there.
Yep.
So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on whatever platform you are listening from, whether it be um, whether it be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, um, uh, Reverb Nation, of the any of those platforms. Like, share, subscribe. Um, well, you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. Be safe, be vigilant, and just enjoy yourselves. And remember, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. All right, be safe, chocolate people. This is your host, Mr. Chocolate and Coach K, and we're out of here.